What's up? What's up? Happy opening day. If this should be live at this point. This is our very first maiden voyage with this streaming technology. Eli Sussman here. I'm going to get my crew in here one step at a time, so bear with me. But leave a comment just to be sure that I'm actually live and not just talking to myself on here. My folks on Twitter, YouTube. I think we have 0 followers on Twitch, so I have a hard time believing that anybody from Twitch is coming in here. Mostly probably on Twitter. Let me grab that link. Oh, I heard a little. Who is that? Oh, I know that guy. I'll add him on in a second. But let me grab this link to get some of my staff in here as well, as we are 2 hours, 9 minutes, and like 40 seconds away from Sandy's first pitch of the regular season against the Tampa Bay Rays, his second consecutive opening day start, and very high expectations for Sandy for sure. First game ever in Lone Depot Park as well. And I think if I read the instructions right, they're opening up the gates right about now for you guys if you had tickets. And let's get our first dude in. Well, actually, let me wait on Ethan to see if he's going to join us as well. Another bop in there. There's Ethan.
Eli, what's going on, brother? Happy opening day.
Happy opening day.
Got the Marlins flag in the background here. I'm ready to go. I'm not going to be able to catch the game, the beginning of the game today. I'll be back towards the end of it. I got work. Really got screwed, man. Don't they know it's opening day?
Should be a holiday. Everybody's been saying it.
Exactly. Everybody should have off work today, but the women's lacrosse season at UF goes on. So anyway, rough prediction. Sandy's going to go 7 innings today. I think he goes scoreless. I think Glasnow's going to have a really nice day too, but I think low scoring for this one. It's opening day. The Aces are going. It should be fun, man. I don't know. This Marlins-Rays rivalry, is interesting. Somebody asked Mattingly about it, and he's kind of pushing it hard. So I think we could actually see something get going here with the Marlins and Rays. The organizations are on kind of a similar path in terms of the way they do things. But
I mean, honestly, it hasn't been much of a rivalry the last couple of years. Yeah. I think the stat is the Rays are 10-1 in the last 11 games between these two, dating back a couple of years.
He said that today. He was like, it really hasn't been much of a rivalry, but
yeah,
we're trying to get it going. It was interesting to note how both teams are kind of taking that similar path. So, yeah, man. I wish I could be on here today, but I'm sure I'll be on streams in the future for sure.
Yeah.
I got to go shower and get ready right now, but.
All right. Well, right before you dip out, anything you want to mention from all the pregame presser stuff that was going on this morning, early afternoon with Jazz and Mattingly? Anything worth noting you want to pass along here?
I just think that the message continues. You know what I mean? That the Marlins are hungry. And Pablo, I asked Pablo about this when he was on, just about where that hunger comes from. And they're just taking that underdog mindset. And they're kind of like Michael Jordan in The Last Dance, where they're just taking everything personally. They're not messing around, man. They're hungry. They think they're a lot better than people give them credit for. They have that same mentality that they had last year. Miggy Rowe, you love that video of him saying, "Why not us?" But it really is that same mentality. And then just that was one thing I took away from it. Zach Pop's a really nice guy. Paul Campbell, I'm really happy for him that he got worked up. It sounded like he worked really hard after he had to deal with some personal stuff, which set him back. Zach Pop is a really nice Canadian man. I mean, we got to get the Panthers to send him a jersey because he's got to get on that Panther wave. But the other thing is just Jazz. I mean, that guy is just so electric. Walks in there with the confidence of a 10-year veteran, with his blue hair and his gold chain swinging around on his first opening day. This kid is special. He's got superstar written all over him. And, Mattingly is trying to temper expectations, say, we know there's going to be growing pains. And there will be growing pains, don't get me wrong. But this kid's going to be fantastic. And if he comes into this type of confidence on his first opening day, I can only imagine what he's going to be coming in with on his 5th or his 10th or whatever. So this kid's gonna be a stud, man. And I hope he does. I feel like he's gonna do something big today. I don't know. It just seems like he's ready and primed, and he kept saying he's not nervous. He doesn't really get butterflies. So to me, that was what I took away, was just Jazz, and just how electric he is. So I lost you. I didn't hear. You're on mute.
I'm still working at the Kings here. Yeah. We can't crown Jazz until he produces in the regular season games. Absolutely. So I want to take it one step at a time. But I mean, absolutely everything that he shows is exactly what you want in that marketable player. And that job opened up for him, and he kind of grabbed it by the horns. So really excited to see him.
It's marketability. You know what I mean? He's got it. He's everything you could ask for him, a face of the franchise. He's just got to go out there and produce now. And if he does, if he jumps in right away and starts hitting, Marlins have a special player on their hands. So I don't want to get too ahead of it. Like I said, we got to be patient. There's going to be growing pains, no doubt about it. But there's the man.
Yeah, I'm bringing in my guy Alex Carver.
What's up, guys?
He runs Fish on the Farm, the amazing Twitter account at Marlins Miners, and on Instagram as well. And good buddy, longtime supporter of what we do here as well. And he's the perfect guy to have on. Ethan, I don't know if you have to dip yet, but
I do. From one Jew to we're going from one Jew to another, so that's perfect. So I gotta head out, but I'll talk to you guys later. If you guys have a post-game stream, I'll definitely be able to join. So let me know.
Absolutely. All right, I'll kick you out right now. Ooh, that went pretty well. And I'm going to just me and Alex for a second here. I mean, a lot to be excited about today. Opening day, of course. But really, of all the little news stories coming out around the majors and around the Marlins, honestly, the headliner right now has to be Sixto, right? The news that he had a setback. So fill the people in about what exactly happened during his start that he was making up in Jax last night, and what it means.
I mean, this is kind of the downer of the day, you got to say, right? You got this whole build-up for opening day. Obviously, it's great to see baseball back, baseball on your TV, going to the game, whatever it may be. But the Marlins' top prospect, he apparently was experiencing some discomfort, according to the Marlins media team this morning during his start at the ATS, his first start out there. It was thought at one time that, he would make maybe that one outing and maybe be ready for the year. Obviously, the Marlins announced, I think, on Monday that wasn't going to happen. And maybe they knew something then, and maybe he mentioned something then, and now he went out and tried to throw. And, he came out of that ATS start. And the word I get, Eli, I have nothing official, but the word that I'm getting from other media members is it's not good. It's going to be a slow build back again for Sixto, who was already out for a while. They built him back, and now he's gone again. So not good.
I mean, anything with the shoulder and with the elbow. In the past, he's had some elbow issues, and the shoulders, I mean, it's right up there where you feel anything, and you got to stop throwing until they assess the damage. And maybe it's not that much damage. Maybe it's no damage at all, and they really dodge a bullet. But, sets him back. I guess the most detailed reporting we got was so far from Christina Di Nicola, MLB.com. Make sure that everybody follows her, Joe's successor. 2+ innings that Sixto went apparently before this popped up, and the posterior right shoulder issue. So, it could be anything, but what we know is it's not good. It's not imminent. And I think at least in the near term, it opens up the door for a guy that me and Ethan and a lot of people wanted to squeeze onto the roster in the first place. Someone like Nick Neidert. Well, as soon as they need like a fifth starter, he was on the outside looking in. And I guess he's the most direct beneficiary of this, right? The one that we'd expect to step in and finally get a sustained opportunity in the rotation. He's never had that. He's former minor league player of the year for the Marlins, had that knee issue in 2019, COVID last year. And the door seems to be opening for him to make that kind of impact.
Yeah, Nick's awesome. It's a guy that went out, the last time we saw him in extensive minor league action, and he was lighting it up in Jacksonville. The strikeout numbers were ridiculous. You thought maybe he was going to be even up before that. Obviously in 2020 he did get up, but did miss that entire year, basically in 2019 with that knee injury. But the thing I love about him is that he's able to come back after missing that full year. And then, of course, everything that happened in 2020 with no minor league season. And he adjusted his mechanics. He went back to how he was throwing in high school. He also brought back his hairstyle from high school, which was kind of cool to see as well. And he's throwing harder. You see him throwing as hard as he ever has. I think he's up to like 94, 95. And he credits it to going back to what he did in high school. So it's really awesome to see. He's a super cool guy to talk to and to get to, ask questions like that about, what he's doing. He's always super honest about everything. So I also love the fact that he's a faith-driven guy. Everything that he does, he says he puts his faith in a higher power, and he's just basically along for the ride. So just takes everything that comes at him, and he's able to battle against it, battle with it, go with it. And, just super cool. Love Nick. I think he's definitely going to be here, and he's going to make an impression. After Rogers, the guy that you really like this spring, right?
Yeah. And now we welcome in a couple of folks that had messaged me before about wanting to come on the stream. And I know that Sean in particular is on a tight schedule, and he wanted to get in before he has other things popping up in his way. Could you introduce yourself to our Fish Stripes audience, Sean? Because I know you write about the Marlins yourself, and I'm sure you're following the team closely. So anything you want us to know about you?
Sure. Unfortunately, I didn't get opening day off either. So yeah, I'm off to teaching a little bit, but I write about baseball on Call to the Pen. Usually I do write about the Marlins though, but do a couple MLB topics too a week. But so yeah, Call to the Pen, that's the fan-sided. It's where you can find my stuff at. And used to do Write for Marlin Maniac, the Marlin page on them for a while before that.
Absolutely. It used to really grind into me that Marlin Maniac had their Twitter account verified years ago. And with Fish Stripes, we've like been clawing at that, and finally got it done a couple of months ago. But yeah, nice. Marlin Maniac. Yeah, I'm great. I know all part of that fan-sided network. They've been a great companion to the coverage that we do, and a lot of things that I don't even pick up myself. You fill in a lot of the blanks, and some of the comparisons that you make, the historical comparisons, the cross sports comparisons I've seen on like some of your writing. It's really clever stuff. And my guy,
thanks a lot.
Yeah, and also my guy, Epic Fish Fan, our mystery guy who doesn't want to go on our camera, but I know he's been following along with our Fish Stripe stuff for a while now. I guess on previous accounts, I don't know whether this is like your second or third account in the past few years, but who are you, man?
I'm a Marlins fan. I've been a Marlins fan for my entire life. And, I'm really optimistic about this team. There's just a different feeling, different type of optimism. The farm is fantastic. It really is like something to look forward to, I'm very excited.
I mean, it's more excited than we've had a reason to be entering any other season in probably 5 years at the very least, since like 2016. First time that you've been able to have this kind of optimism. We recorded a pretty long pod this morning about the range of possibilities that if all goes wrong, honestly, this team might be not that much different from where it was earlier on in this rebuild, just because of the division that they're in, because of the inexperience of some of their key players, and just a lot of other factors, their determination to win this year or their lack thereof, and how the front office is going to operate. That the downside is pretty low, but the upside is, yeah, like I said, higher than it's been in at least 5 years if everything clicks. If, fingers crossed, all these other young pitchers outside of Sixto actually stay healthy. With people just joining us now, Sixto he was already behind schedule a little bit in joining the team. And now with this shoulder scare that we don't know how long that could keep him out. But if everybody else stays healthy, if all these veterans, for the most part, just do what they did last year, and if the team is confident enough to actually hold on to them throughout the whole year and not be tempted to flip them at the deadline, trying to find that perfect balance between getting that veteran production and also clearing the way for the next wave of prospects. So I guess I'll go to Alex again. What's your expectation on how they're going to balance that? Because we know about all these great guys that they have coming up at different positions. I mean, it starts with JJ Bleday, but you could go dozens of players deep at almost every position with these guys that are so close to being major league ready. And for the very moment, most of them are blocked, with the exception of someone like Jazz, that it's a tough balancing act with all these vets already in place and trying to really meld the present and the future.
Yeah, and for me, it's Eli. It's the question for me. I asked Craig Mish this on my podcast that I put up this morning. I had him on my show last night, and I asked him specifically about the outfield. But then you also have first base. You have the rotation. So it's tough to gauge it right now. I mean, just take the outfield for example. You got 3 guys on expiry deals, right? Dickerson, Marte, and Adam Duvall, who they just brought in on a 1-year contract, and the question is going to be, if you have the Marlins and they're in contention here at the deadline, what do they do? Do you invest in your future and say, okay, however the minor league guys are doing, Bleday is obviously probably pretty close, if not maybe this year, definitely next year. Other guys behind him as well, that probably aren't too far away. So if you're in contention, do you say, okay, I'm going to re-sign these guys that we have that are vets that are producing? Or are we going to sacrifice maybe being in contention now and get something back for those players and invest in our future, which is pretty close? So that's what the question is going to be. The trade deadline is going to tell where the organization is on their prospects and if they're in win now mode. And that's from a fan standpoint, if you see the Marlins in contention and then they're trading away assets, maybe that's going to leave not a great taste in fans' mouths. So you got to take that into account too. So kind of got that balancing act, Eli, going on. And I don't know the answer. I don't know what they're going to do. You do hear from Jeter that he is invested in the prospects. He said that at the stadium press conference the other day. So, I mean, overall, I would err on the side of that and say that they had this plan coming in that they're going to build these kids up. And when they're ready, they're going to be here. So, the answer that I would guess right now on opening day, 2021, that is that the prospects are going to be here when they deserve to be here and when they're ready, whether that's this season, next season, whatever it may be. So yeah, they're not going to be held back. So it's going to be a fun deadline.
Yeah. Same thing to you, Sean, if you have any thoughts on that.
Deadline move. I feel like if they make one, it's going to be, if you remember back to when they brought in Nick Johnson in that kind, like a move like that, like something where, all right, we're going to try, we're going to help you out a little bit, the kids, but I think if they will want to leave it mostly, on the prospects. If there's a big move in their future, I see that more next off season on there. I mean, as far as being excited about the franchise, a lot of it's just those off the field wins too, right? We've got our naming rights deal on there and the new media contract. And in terms of that, it's, and just as far as what they have in payroll commitments right now too, and just the financial flexibility they have right now, it's about as most excited as you've been since 2012, I think, for this club's ability to add on to their core of young talent. And if you look at teams that have the chance to contend right now and have so little in payroll commitments, the Marlins are right at the top, for that kind of position in the league right now. So that's really exciting too. I think they'll put as much as they can on the prospects all year. But if they do add on mid-season, which I certainly hope they're in a position to do, I think you're going to see it be, that kind of minor Nick Johnson, type move more than a big one. But I think they would help the club out if they're competing.
Nick Johnson was that type of guy that he could always hit. He was just never healthy. And how old do you think he is right now? Probably 40 something. I bet if they found him wherever he is and they had a DH, if they had a DH and they found him wherever he is and they just pulled him off the couch, I bet he still gets on base, like a 350 clip. He wouldn't do anything else, but he had that really innate ability. And I don't know those stats off the top of my head, but I know when he was with the Marlins for that brief stretch, it was off the charts where he was one of the league leaders in OBP down the stretch. And limited impact because of those injuries, but Marlins legend, Nick Johnson, and a legend with a lot of other teams, I guess. But you brought up something that I'll throw to Epic Fish Fan about the naming rights that finally went through. Fish Tribe's got the heads up about that on Sunday, but I mean, by any standard, that's really last minute, right? To be changing the name of your venue right before opening day. And with that, of course, they get a lot of money out of it. We don't know exactly how much. Latest report from the Miami Herald, like $4-ish million a year for the foreseeable future, maybe a little bit higher, to call it Lone Depot Park. And the jokes totally write themselves about that. Not just if the Marlins, but like any single franchise that put a loan in the name of their facility is going to get a lot of shit for doing that, because it's just,
We've got brass.
yes, it's really pushing it. But that's the name. And this is something I've been asking just about everybody. So I'll give it to Epic Fish Fan as well. Was it worth it, do you think, to put that brand name on your facility for however many years moving forward in order to inch up the payroll a little bit? Do you think it was worth it for them to compromise the elegance of the name of the facility in order to just pad their pockets a little bit? Do you like that trade-off?
Am I a fan of the name? No, I don't like Lone Depot. And what I don't like is that the L is not capitalized. But the P in Park is. That logic doesn't make sense to me. It's just strange. But if it helps boost payroll, Miami Marlins, a lot of people like to say that we are a market team, which, fair enough. I can understand, that extra $4 million, it will come in handy, People don't understand that it's for teams like us.
Yeah, it's really it's a tough question to answer in terms of how soon that actually impacts their spending appetite. I mean, they did make that little. They keep pointing it out. I think even Derek Jeter yesterday probably brought it up kind of unsolicited about the Starling Marte trade, and how in the middle of the season, in the middle of the pandemic, they had a couple $1 million to their payroll, even though they were still rebuilding, and how that was supposed to be a sign that they're really going for it. The thing is, they just didn't have very many other expenses on the books prior to that. That's why they were able to make that big splash, because they didn't have a lot on the books in the first place. And moving forward, of course, as Alex mentioned, they have all these contracts coming off the books after this season. So once again, they're going to be in this great position to spend just because they have so little already that's guaranteed to them. They can reshape this team in any number of ways and still be one of the lower payroll teams in the majors. And yeah, it's just hard to really anticipate exactly what their tolerance is going to be to spend. And I mean, some of that is going to have to do with what the attendance looks like at the ballpark as well, and the gate revenue. It's not the biggest piece of the pie, probably the TV deal, and the increase they got, that's the biggest piece. But attendance is also going to be a pretty, that's obviously been a sore spot for the franchise forever in terms of actually getting people to show up, even when the team is going pretty well, and being able to lock in people as season ticket holders year after year after year. That's what's going to continue to move the needle up, where maybe someday they operate as a mid-level market franchise instead of still being towards the bottom where they are now. I put this in the fish picks for today, our prop bets contest that we do every single game for this entire season, about what we think the attendance is going to be for this one, because the team has kind of ballparked how much capacity is going to be available to start the year, like 20-25%. And they announced that for the most part, they were able to sell the tickets to this one. What did I put the over-under at? About 8,000 or so people showing to this game. What do you think? Would you guys take the over-under on when the official attendance comes out for this one?
Over. I tried buying tickets and sold out immediately. Obviously, there are some diehard fans that are waiting to get into the stadium. 100%. I feel like it's going over.
Over for sure. They always seem to do a good job on opening day, and that it trickles off for game 2 and game 3. But opening day, people show up across the sport. Miami and every other big league city, they'll go over.
Yeah, agreed. No fans last year, obviously. You got a little bit new elements to the park, new name, obviously. I think fans are going to want to be out and see it. I'm going to go over as well.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'll have to check the mentions. So I appreciate everybody that's been replying to that on Twitter and also on our site, fishstripes.com. That's where you could enter these fish picks. We're giving away T-shirts every single month from Legends of Dade. They have a great Instagram account for people that don't follow that. And I'm sure we'll be giving away also some of our own T-shirts that we make here. I don't know if people know this, but the Air Rojas T-shirt that came out early on in the 2020 regular season, that was an idea that I kind of pushed through with our friends at Breaking Tea. And that's one that took off. And obviously Miggy likes to wear it himself, and a lot of his teammates do. And that's the one that I still have for myself right here. So they're still available on Breaking Tea for people to get them. I think at this point we don't even get any commission off of that. It's just a good style. It's just a good quality T-shirt for people to have that I would highly recommend.
I actually had to go with another outlet today for my opening day getup, Eli. I went with my boy Pete.
Hey,
with my Austin Dean jersey as well, by the way. So there you go.
Nice.
Yeah, there's no competition. I think Pete and Miami Marlins do okay. And what I mean is the variety of shirts that he has there is astounding. I'll have to get if Pete is still with us. I think he was with us at the start of the stream, but it's in the dozens, the number of different T-shirts he has inspired by. He updates them quick. Like, it's not just ones from last season. He was adding to it over the winter. He was adding to it in spring training. I think as recently as last week, he was continuing to add inventory to all that stuff.
Yeah, I had the idea to do it, like to do shirts and stuff like that. And then I saw what Pete was doing. And then obviously you guys partnered with Breaking Tea. And I was like, you know what? No competition. Like it's these guys. They're the main two. So I love the shirts. By the way, Eli, I am getting the Smooth Jazz one that you guys just put out. It's awesome, and I have the same Air Rojas one as well. So
yeah, I need mine to arrive pretty soon as well, because that one just came out a couple days ago for Jazz. Once we figured out he was on the opening day roster, and here at the top of the broadcast, we talked about Jazz and just how special he could be. I mean, his personality is exactly what you want from this kind of franchise player, but obviously he has to perform on the field. He has the tools to do it. He has the opportunity to do it, at least for the early portion of the year. It sounds like he'll get a pretty long leash, if not in the lineup every day, then almost always against right-handers for sure. And he'll be involved in a variety of ways. So looking forward to that. For anybody that may have missed it, he did dye his hair blue entering this game. It had been blondes throughout most of spring training. And I think last year he just had it natural, but he's a character, man. He's great.
That's dedication to the opening day getup for sure.
Funniest dude. I mean, didn't see a ton of him in minor league ball with the Marlins. Obviously, he came from the Diamondbacks, from the Zach Gallen trade. So you saw a little bit of him in Jacksonville, but not a lot. But a character for sure, as Eli said. I saw him 2 springs ago, I guess it was now. Right? Yeah, like 2 springs, or maybe it was 2020 spring training, I guess. Yeah, 2020 spring training, before COVID, obviously, where he's literally taking Sour Patch Kids in exchange for baseballs from fans and putting them in his hoodie and eating them. So just a fun guy, right? I mean, above anything on the field, obviously he's got talent. He's got to prove it, like Eli said as well. But fun kid, awesome. Yeah, Donnie said it this morning as well on the media call. He's like, yeah, if guys want to be themselves, as long as they get their business done, I don't care. So it's something that's encouraged, which is great.
Yeah, for this opening day lineup, Jazz, batting number 6th. I predicted over the winter that he would rise up pretty quickly, be someone that is batting near the top of the order as the year goes on. But that goes back to obviously proving yourselves in regular season games, and how the vets that are currently at the top of the order right now with Dickerson and Marte, that's been throughout all of spring training. Like, Donnie wasn't even hiding it, that's the formula they're going with, and kind of for good reason, because both of them have pretty substantial track records offensively, and you can trust them to certain degrees. You could trust Marte to be the same guy he's always been, and trust Dickerson to bounce back a lot for sure. I mean, I guess the other really big breaking news that came out today is that not all the scheduled games are going to take place, because the Nationals have at least 2, it seems like, positive COVID tests among their players. And so that's postponed their game against the Mets, at least for today. And it sounds like they might not even consider starting up again until Saturday, obviously assessing the contact tracing with all that. Really just sobering situation for everybody that was throughout all the spring training. You saw the numbers every Friday. MLB put out the numbers of the testing, and maybe it was 1 player in all of the major leagues that tested positive one week, or the next week it was only 2 across the entire spring training operation, thousands of guys. And the fact that there's potentially now this sort of quasi outbreak right as the regular season gets going, it's really unfortunate. And even as a team that's a rival of the Nationals, you never want to wish this on anybody, because what we went through with the Marlins last year was, for those first few days especially, it was agony when you kept getting updates about more and more players. You don't know the condition those players are in once they test positive. And even though baseball kind of dodged a bullet in some cases, and honestly, it didn't really dodge a bullet. There are some players that tested positive last year and had very serious complications that may affect them going forward. That's just a bummer. Yeah, there's no real positive way for me to spin that. It's just I wish that wasn't overshadowing what's supposed to be an unofficial holiday for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, it just really brings home the situation that this is still something we're going to be dealing with for at least the first half of the season, man.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think Eli got up for a second, but just to put a pinpoint on it, I actually asked Mattingly about it this morning. Planned to put the post up when the Marlins put the media up. But anyways, his full answer. Basically, he said, it just brings back to the point, as excited as they are to get the season started, this thing is still here, and they have to stay vigilant and they have to stay ready. And he did say that whenever the players are eligible, that they're going to be encouraged to get the vaccinations. He said himself that he got a vaccination this morning. But yeah, above all the excitement of opening day, which is always an exciting time no matter what, it kind of just brings back home that this thing is still here and you got to still be on the lookout for it. So we're not through it yet. Hopefully we'll be through it soon. Everybody can get vaccinated and it can be in the past. So that's the hope, right?
No one's totally through it. A couple teams though have reached a point where the threshold that MLB set up was 85% of your roster being vaccinated. And that opportunity obviously depends on where you are. Different states have different availabilities of the vaccine. I'll have to double check exactly what teams they are. I think the Cardinals were one of them that were able to reach that threshold with the roster. And once you do that, understandably, if you are vaccinated, then the risk goes down very dramatically, and the league is willing to actually modify the rules for you and loosen the restrictions that you have in your lifestyle and in your clubhouse for the rest of the season. That's how they're trying to motivate people to get their shots. And I'm sure anybody listening to this is pretty familiar with kind of where we stand on this issue. If you have the opportunity to get the vaccine, please do it, because it adds up. And as a community, that's how we all get over this challenge, and how the Marlins ultimately will be able to loosen up their restrictions in terms of allowing more fans in as the year goes on. I mean, that's something that Jeter mentioned pretty specifically as a goal of his, or really a hope of his, that later in the year, there could come a time where it's already totally unrestricted, if they're able to reach a point with the community where it's safe to do so. So that's going to be the ripple effects of that are pretty crazy, because you could see, obviously you're going to have to play more double headers to make up for those lost games. And that was one of the fun storylines of last Marlins season, wasn't it? How they had a ridiculous number of double headers and they thrived in those double headers. That kind of made the difference in their season, that they played better in the most chaotic and stressful parts of their schedule than they did in the easier parts. And even though they were a team that was playing more than one game per day over this extended period of time, and that they had to force some of these young players into the games before they were really ready at the major league level, that the team was still succeeding. It was still eking out wins, a lot of them really close wins that made you sweat. I don't know if other teams kind of had that same magic to them, though. That was a special Marlins 2020 thing.
I think that was just us. Our 7 games in 4 days, was it, or about right for that series against the Phillies, that I think just about secured things for us getting into the playoffs. But forget if it was the Phillies or the Nats, but no, the volume of games and just a weekend for that last series and second to last series in September, that was something else.
Yeah, and then just to pinpoint that, the guys that they did it with, right? After that COVID outbreak and everybody goes down, you make these patchwork deals to get guys that nobody's basically ever heard of, specifically in the bullpen, and they were able to contribute and just, like Eli said, eke out those wins, and it was enough to get to the playoffs. So if they could do that with the guys that they did it with last year, hopefully everybody stays healthy this year. I think it's a club that's really going to surprise people. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's odd to do the full roll call with that. Obviously, Richard Blyer was someone that they acquired last year in a trade from the Orioles immediately as that was happening, and he has stuck around with the team. He seems to have a very secure spot in their bullpen for 2021. Who else? I mean, it was some hit or miss. I think they picked up Nick Vincent during that period. They
James
acquired,
Hoyt. James Hoyt was in there, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, before getting to James Hoyt, I was just checking if any of the other guys are still around from that crazy time. They signed Logan Forsythe. That was somewhat of an underwhelming performance from him in a handful of games. Justin Schaefer. They had Brian Moran for his second tour of duty. They lost him to the Blue Jays, and then they brought him back after this COVID situation, and he only pitched in a game or two. And then Mike Morin. He was someone that had a pretty long pedigree as a major league reliever, but he got hurt almost as soon as they acquired him in that situation. Who else? Josh D. Smith. They had Josh D. Smith off of waivers. They signed the independent league guy, Brandon Liebrandt. Remember him? I'm not sure what he's up to right now, but he's no longer with the organization. Jesus Tinoco. I remember him. I was a little frustrated when they had to DFA him later in the season. He had some promise, and he's now back with the Rockies organization. And then Brett Eibner too. He was the two-way player, or not really a two-way player. He was a failed outfielder who converted to being a reliever, and he got into 3 games last year while they really had an urgency to have him. James Hoyt, as mentioned, he was the one that made the biggest impact last year. He was unequivocally awesome in those middle innings, appearing with runners on base, a lot of high leverage situations, and he was great. Donnie had the highest possible trust in him with that wipeout slider that he has. So I was bummed to see him get traded away, like on the eve of the regular season. But we had an article of this on the site about reasons why, and how he had a rough spring training that looks even rougher if you dig into the details, that he's someone that's so reliant on his slider. And then for whatever reason, this spring, he wasn't throwing it the same. It wasn't moving the same. There was such a big difference in the spin rate, and he had no idea where it was going as well. So you combine that where it's not having much of a late break and deceiving hitters, and you're also not throwing it anywhere close to the zone. And it's once things turned over to the regular season, there was no reason to really have much faith in him moving forward. So I don't know, Alex, you think they were overreacting in trying to unload him just based on that small spring sample, or do you kind of see the method to the madness?
I mean, it's this is going to be the last one for me, and then I got to get back to the day job. Anyways.
I got to run too.
Yeah, this is going to be my last one, Eli, and then if you have postgame, I'll be on. But just to answer the question, it kind of, I guess, was weird to me a little bit because he had a minor league option, right? And they don't use that option, and they trade him, I think, just for cash. Am I right? I don't think they got a player back, right?
Cash considerations, yep.
Yeah, so just cash. So they must have really seen something that they did not like to say, we're not going to use your option, and we're just going to trade you for money. So, I mean, yeah, it's spring training, and, guys try to figure things out and throw new pitches and everything else. But you look at it from the fact that he had that minor league option, and Kim Ng said, nope, I'm not using it. You're getting traded just for a couple bucks. So he didn't have a good spring at all. I saw him throw in spring training a little bit. He did not look comfortable on the mound. He did not look confident at all. As you said, control was just non-existent. And if a guy like that doesn't have control, he doesn't have overpowering stuff, he's not going to be effective. So the Marlins saw that, and they said, you know what? With everything else we have in the bullpen, there was battles in the bullpen. Those 2 Rule 5 guys, we didn't even know if they were both going to make it. Turns out they both did. I mean, Zach Pop, after only getting 5 innings in, he makes the team. So, I mean, they didn't really look at the samples. They looked at the quality of what was going on, and that's who made the club. So some tough calls made. I think he's one of them, but just to not use that option and trade him for cash, I think is telling. But that's it for me. Eli, thanks for having me in. I appreciate it. If you have post-game, I'll be in, and thanks a lot. Absolutely.
And my guy, Alex Contreras, is reminding me here that we are still in a fight for our lives in Marlins Twitter madness. That's of course, Alex's grand invention.
Yeah, guys. I mean, everybody that's listening to this, I'm sure there's a lot of my following Eli that follows Eli and his stuff, and Alex as well. I can't believe how much that thing blew up because I was just thinking of it as just a little fun idea. I saw one of my one of my girlfriend's friends, I should say. Got to be careful how I speak here. One of my girlfriend's friends did one for UCF. She's a UCF alumni. I was like, there's enough people on Marlins Twitter. I think this could be pretty fun to get us through that break between, spring training ending and opening day. And this thing's gone absolutely crazy. So I thank everybody that has voted, that's in it. Eli, you're still in it. I just made it a little fun thing, and it took off. So it's really cool to see that. I appreciate everybody's support, and we'll see what happens. I got the Elite Eight going up today, by the way. So we'll see. But thanks again, Eli. I appreciate it.
Oh, I got to bring my mic back as we kick off Alex. But he gave us about 35 minutes of his time, and we're going to put in one final call for this Marlins Twitter March Madness. Us against Brenton Tobin, a.k.a. Marlins Macho Man. I don't think we're going to pull it off. And early speculation, some of the handicappers were saying that we had a good shot at going to the Final Four, maybe the championship game, but it's not really a high priority for me. We were very generous of Alex. I think he put like 7 or 8 Fish Stripes riders in that bracket. So I was just kind of boosting them up and trying to make them go as far as possible. We don't really need to expand our audience all that much more, although we do appreciate it. And everybody that takes that thing really seriously, I mean, why not? It's a good part to have in that. So I think we're only down to the final 2 or 3 hours of that matchup with Tobin. And I'm going to bring on, let's see who Nick is. How's it going, man?
Just
Appreciate you joining
waiting,
us,
man. Just watching the Yankee game right now.
Yeah. Most of my family are Yankees fans, so they were kind of wired into that. Well, I hopped on this stream to get everything going. Introduce yourself a little bit, though. Are you a Marlins fan? When did you become a Marlins fan? And what's on your minds here on opening day?
All right. Well, I used to hate the Marlins for a while because I was a big Braves fan. I was a big Chipper Jones fan. And I started like the Marlins as like day one as soon as Jeter came in. And just because, he was going to bring in change and, actually care about the team. And actually, I'm repping my Jumbo Shrimp baseball shirt. So repping the farm system too.
Beautiful.
Yeah. But yeah, I love the Marlins ever since Jeter came in, honestly. It's very exciting. So yeah.
And we've been asking everybody about this because it's fresh on everybody's minds. First reports on Tuesday about it, and then the formal introduction on Wednesday about the new name to the ballpark, Lone Depot Park. And the money that's bringing into the franchise, that's good. But the jokes that it's bringing to the franchise, not so good. To have Lone in the name of the ballpark they play in all the time. I'm sure you noticed that and how that went into effect. So you think it's worth it for the team to rebrand like that and invite all the cheap jokes out there in order to hopefully like put a better major league product on the field because of those extra resources?
I mean, just show me the money, man. I don't care what you name it, honestly. I kind of wish it was Publix Park, but I didn't go through.
Yeah, I'll be interested in seeing some more details about what those alternatives were, because Jeter even admitted there were some other companies interested in it, but you have to assume they just weren't offering as much money to get it done. Whether it was Publix, we don't know, but obviously any brand that was like more local. Of course, Lone Depot is based out in California,
right?
And you'd think they have all these other partners already that have already spent money with the Marlins that are based somewhere in Florida, and even better if they're based in South Florida, that it would have been more appropriate. And but ultimately, we could refer to it whatever way we want, because it really cracked me up the way that they want to stylize the name and have it almost all in lowercase with just the one capital D in the middle of that. But our policy, we want people to actually like be able to read it, because it's confusing with the L at the beginning. If it's a little L, it kind of looks like a capital I. And I don't know. I don't think that was very well thought out, the way that they want to brand it in that situation.
And lowercasing the P too. It's a little weird. I mean, but I'm gonna refer to it as the Depot. I'm going to the Depot tonight, or the Marlins swept the Mets at the Depot. So that's the way I'm gonna be referring it to.
Yeah, the Depot, the Big D, because it's the only big letter in the name. LDP, we're going to work through that and figure out
That's
what
loud, a
sticks.
little weird. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever sticks is what we're going to stick with moving forward. And we're going to try to keep the stream going for like a full hour, one more hour, because then I got to settle in to actually watch the game, make sure that I'm all ready for that. We were
So
talking earlier.
What are your predictions for the season? What do you think is going to be the record?
Oh, well, it's a wide range of outcomes, honestly. I mean, we had a podcast about that, how if everything clicks right, they could be a playoff team this year. I don't think that's a crazy expectation to have because of all the depth that they have at almost every position. Like right now, they're missing Sixto. That's one of the stories of the day is Sixto
Right.
had a little setback with his shoulder, and he could be out. They don't know. They're going to reevaluate him. He could be out for the foreseeable future, but the rotation is still in good hands no matter what. They really do roll 7 or 8 deep with their rotation candidates, not just the guys in the majors, but prospects that I'm really high on, like Nick Neidert. And like even I was so surprised by Daniel Castano last year and what he did when he got called up, because
Absolutely.
even the spring training too, like there was a little jump in his stuff, the quality of his stuff that makes you think, hey, maybe he is going to keep improving and like make that work. Braxton Garrett is someone that we barely saw last year, but he's got all the makings of a really stable middle of the rotation starter. That, I mean, that piece of the puzzle alone is going to be a big deal and it's going to keep them in the mix. I'm really high on the fielding as well at almost every position. I mean, we know that Miggy and BA, they were Gold Glove finalists last year. We know across the outfield, all those guys have won Gold Gloves in the not too distant past.
Right.
And all these prospects coming up too. That's been the priority when they were putting this team together through the draft and through the trades. These are guys that are so not just athletic, but really fundamentally sound. And they just have a great feel for the game. So when they call up JJ Bleday, when they give Lewin Diaz another shot, along the way, if they give Monte Harrison another shot, that these guys are all potentially plus defenders at all these different positions, that no matter who gets injured, that you really like their ability to make all the routine plays and to make some of the spectacular plays too. So no matter how the season unfolds, I really trust that they'll be above average in terms of preventing runs on that side of the equation. Baseball is two sides of the equation. It's preventing runs and it's scoring runs.
Absolutely.
And we're really confident about what they're going to do on the prevention side between the pitching and the defense. But the big questions are the offense, and it's also the front office / ownership desire to win this year and how that compares to the rest of the division. The rest of this division is going for it. Everybody from the Braves on to the Mets, to the Phillies, to the Nationals. I mean, really, especially the Nationals, because their window is closing. And with those other ones, they've long-term, they have a lot of hope, but they still want to get it done this year because all those teams, especially the Mets and the Braves, they have some pretty long droughts that they kind of want to put away this year, and they have the possibility to do it. Those teams are going to be adding at the trade deadline if they need to. And are the Marlins going to be adding at the trade deadline if they need to? Or are they going to stand pat? Or are they going to actually subtract? Are they going to get rid of those pending free agents? Because they see that their window is, for the most part, starting next year, 2022 and beyond. That's when these young guys, they hope, will start to come into their primes. And that's when they really will have all that money hitting the bank account that they can send out and acquire other players. I'm really skeptical about them adding much talent and experience at the deadline. I think they're going to ride with what they got and they'll trust these prospects. And if everything clicks, it's a team that's honestly even better than last year, maybe a lot better than last year. But being in this division, my best guess is about 75 wins. It's 75 and 87.
Okay.
And that's not something that anybody gets really excited about. It's a lot better than 2018, 2019.
Right. I'm about the same way. I'm going to go with 80 wins. I just all I care about this season is I hope they just knock out the Mets out of the wild card. Atlanta's going to take the division, but I'm praying that the Mets aren't in it because I don't know if you've seen on Twitter, but Mets fans are the most annoying fan base out there. But
That's an interesting thing. I think we should really do a more scientific decision on who the most annoying fans are, because they're up there. I agree, they're up there. I don't know if they're actually that much worse than the Braves or I guess, yeah, I probably, if I was to power rank the most annoying fan bases in the division, yeah, they'd probably be on top. The Braves number 2, Phillies 3, and Nationals 4. And Marlins fans are great. You can't say anything bad about Marlins fans because they've been through it. They've been through even those years when before Jeter was here, when you weren't necessarily buying in. I mean, it was understandable. It was understandable why people were turned away from the team, because they really made you like pull your hair out with a lot of the decisions they made, and some bad luck to go along with that as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's a lot of suffering, and people are when you've been through that, then you're more gracious on the way up. You have a different a different appreciation for what was like at the bottom, and it's more about just hoping for the best instead of taunting other people. That's what kind of drives you crazy, when people are taunting you. But the Mets fans, it's on another level, just because their team the last handful of years has been really mediocre. Their team hasn't been much better than the Marlins were these last few years, and yet they still have that sense of entitlement about them that I understand why that kind of can drive you crazy.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, so like I've liked the Marlins with Jeter, but I mean, ever since, I mean, there's been only 2 times in my life that I've been emotional over baseball, and it was the 2004 Red Sox and when the Marlins clinched at Yankee Stadium last year, and Don Mattingly was talking about Jose, and everyone was very emotional, and I got emotional myself, and I just love the team even more. I am super excited for what's coming, finally. So
yeah, imagine how much different last year was. Really a big positive for the organization, but even more so if they actually had fans able to attend those games, be a part of it at some point, that would have taken it to another level. But I mean, at the very least, it does change the whole vibe around the organization. Like it's moving the goalposts a little bit. I mean, ultimately everybody's in it for the championships. You don't hang a banner for winning one playoff round, but at the same time, it's so much better. It's something very specific that they haven't had in the previous 17 years, that it's such a clear stepping stone heading to where they want to go, that it's really encouraging. It's something that people can point to and understand that this thing is, that you have that tangible result.
Real.
You can, something specific on another level that you weren't able to get to the previous few years and the previous decade, and they're able to get to that this year. And now the complication is some of the rules. I guess this goes into the prediction that I had about the team, is that going back to some of these rules for the 2021 season that weren't there last year, like getting rid of the DH, and obviously closing down the playoffs, going back to just 5 teams in the National League, that it makes it tougher, especially for the Marlins. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how closely you follow all this stuff, but knowing that someone like Garrett Cooper gets squeezed out of the everyday lineup because they don't have a DH, that must be, that's really, it hurts the Marlins a lot more than it hurts any other team to have a guy like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I saw today's lineup, and Cooper's out. Is just, you're right. It hurts. It hurts. Because it would have been one hell of a lineup.
It would have, and we'll see how this plays out. I think at this point it's too late, and I'm always not totally sure, because last year went down to the last day, right before opening day, that they announced the specifics about the year, about the expanded playoffs. They were making changes down to the last minute, but even though the Marlins haven't started now, we have 3 or 4 or 5 games going on right now. So at that point, when they're already playing ball in these other teams, I think it's too late to actually change the rules back. I think that's how you know that. Yeah, they're gonna have to figure out another way in this situation to get through it.
How do you feel about Bender being optioned?
It wasn't a surprise to me. I mean, for people that weren't familiar, Fish Stripes was all over Bender mania. That was something that 2 games into his spring training, it was apparent that, this guy is something special. Well, maybe I don't want to use the word special. I don't want to put too much pressure on who he is as an overall player. but his stuff is special. His raw stuff is honestly unlike any other reliever on the team. It's like having Sandy in the bullpen or having Sixto in the bullpen, averaging like 97 on his fastball, like all his fastballs, mid 90s, one after the other, and then having that slider that is just as good, that same pitch that he could throw for strikes and that nobody can really put a good swing on. As soon as it didn't take long in the spring training. Like that's one thing where as it's a tiny sample and you're already able to see that, wow, this guy is built different and that's going to make such a big impact as long as he continues doing what he does in the regular season. But that being said, it's just like a matter of like the roster politics, let's call it, where he signed a minor league deal. He was a guy that a lot of other teams had the opportunity to sign and they didn't believe that they didn't see this in him. And honestly, the Marlins probably didn't see him being able to do this either. Right. So he takes a minor league deal, and it's one of the keys when you see these minor league deals, you see a lot of vets, major league vets sign minor league deals as well. But those guys have what you call an opt-out really right as the season is starting. If you're not going to put them on the roster, they want to test the market. They think that they're qualified enough to get a job with another team, and they have the opportunity to do that. But with someone like Bender, he'd never pitched above AA before. So he was not in that same category. And it means that the Marlins kind of have leverage in this situation. Whatever they saw from him this spring, they got to love it. He had a scoreless spring training. Honestly, it wasn't until the very last game that any team came close to scoring against him. That it was an amazing spring. They believe in him. They're just trying to balance all this out. They have more players than they have roster spots for, and they're going to put him on the roster. He will pitch in the majors this year. He's probably going to pitch in the first half of the season, if not even sooner than that. He'll be up really soon. Honestly, as soon as they have maybe one more reliever injury or someone just goes into a bad slump, that he earned that opportunity to come up real soon. It's just that they need to have the whole picture in mind. They're not going to rush him up until they absolutely have to. And so I understand that. I think it was I don't blame them one bit for doing it, even though it's a little frustrating. Everybody wants to see him make that next step. And it's always fun. One thing that covering
comeback story, you know?
Yeah. Well, in covering the team, that there are always guys kind of like this every year. Not all of them have the same abilities. Not all are quite on the same level, but when they are close to like breaking through and for the first time, that it's always so like fulfilling to see their inner circle around them, like their close family members or people that were with them on the previous minor league stops, the guys people that their college teams, their high school teams, that when they start like performing in these spring training games, all of a sudden that like community around them starts to really get loud and get confident and get so excited for them. So I absolutely love it. That's like one of the best parts of like covering this team is when somebody new comes up and for the first time, all the people that group that was riding with them for years and years and years, when it didn't look like they were going to make it, they finally sense that breakthrough is coming. And that's what it's all about, is being able to, celebrate that together. So hopefully that's coming soon. I mean, again, it will have to do with what else happens on the roster, but he's going to get his opportunity, no doubt, as long as he's just stays consistent with what he was doing this spring. As we are joined by my buddy Vicente from Spain, calling in from about 8 o'clock over there in España. So a night
2
game
minutes
for
to
you.
9 p.m.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. Finally getting our first game of the year. Even though, of course, you want those real games, you probably loved the spring training experience, having so many games that had Europe-friendly start time. Once we get into the regular season, you have all these late starts by your time where you'd have to stick around for the middle of the night in order to see how it ends. A nice sweet spot, though, with this one. With this one, you're probably going to be able to stay up for the whole thing.
All the game we stay support the team. Unfortunately, in the MLB Game Pass, we have to rewatch the games in the next day. So I try to watch every single pitch and every single inning. But yeah, last year was easy with 60 games. But don't worry, this season I think we enjoy so much with this group, this amazing group, and I try to watch every single game. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Marlins are doing a little bit of a favor. I mean, some of these start times for these evening games early in the season, they moved up a little bit. It used to be like 7:10 local time, and now a lot of them are moved up to about 6:40, about 30 minutes that they're buying you to potentially stick around. But yeah, I have so much respect for you, and of course for others like Peter Pratt, who's also on the other side of the pond, and what do you guys have to go through in order to actually see this team and stick around the whole time.
So how is baseball like in Spain? Is there a lot of people that love the game over there?
Well, here the community is not so much people. We have a national league, 8-10 teams around the Spain, but all the people who play baseball, majority is Latin guys. Venezuela, Republica Dominicana, Colombia. In Spain, there are a lot of people who comes from this part of the world because the language, of course, and they play in the weekends and it's fine to watch. It's different because you watch the best in the MLB, but the baseball is a game that it's too funny to play and watch. Doesn't matter your level, no, and well, it's not a popular sport here, but we try to make some fans with the website, and I write articles about the Marlins, and there are also people who write about the league and other teams, and well, we try to come the more fans with MLB.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for people that don't know, Vicente writes for Pichios Salvajes.
Yeah,
got the accent perfect. Wrong on that.
Yeah, but in translation is wild pitches. Pichios Salvajes. Yeah.
Gotcha. And don't sell yourself short. You wrote a very detailed article previewing the season for the Marlins and some of the moves they made during the offseason, and what the expectations are for this team. So, I mean, already on this stream, I've done enough talking for an hour about what my predictions are for the team and how the season's going to go. But how do you see that coming off last year? They made the playoffs, and this year, for the most part, in a lot of areas, is the same team that they had last year with some key improvements in the bullpen. But what are your ultimate expectations? Did they do enough, you think, to make it back to the playoffs?
Yeah, yesterday we launched a guide. I don't know how it is in English. Guide, a preview of the league with more of 140 pages in Spanish, of course. And he asked me if I can do the predictions of NL East, and I put the Marlins in third spot because I think that most people only watch the numbers. Yeah, you go to the Baseball Reference or whatever you want, and you only see numbers. But this group of guys, there are some extra. I think is the motivation, the atmosphere of in the team. That if you don't follow the team every single day, you it's impossible you watch this. And when you watch the press conferences, the videos he shares in the medias, like today in Twitter or what else, I feel this atmosphere, this kind of amazing group who wants play baseball, and the new guys today, Jack Pop, Said, and all who comes to Miami say, "Oh, this is amazing group. There are a lot of positivities in the locker room, and that is amazing." And answer your question, Eli. I think it will be a good result if they are around 80 wins, 50 500. I think, and not only the wins, and who watch the team in the field, because we know we have a young rotation. I think the outfielders and bullpen is more better than years ago, because if you remember what the team have in the 2019 with bullpen and outfields, I think it's a best group now. And I don't know if you talk with Ethan just the other day that have a lot of arms, veterans, and you have neither that and Castaño that you can use. I think it's so deep, this team, and I think they can face every single team in the division.
Yeah, bringing on Alex Contreras from the set. Where are you, in Georgia or in South Carolina? Remind us where you are.
I'm in South Carolina right now, on the border, real close to Savannah, Georgia, man. It's a pleasure to be here. Opening day. Happy opening day to Nick.
Happy opening day, man.
Vincent. España!
¿Qué pasa, Alex?
It doesn't matter where you're
opening
at,
day, man.
It doesn't matter where you're at. The most important thing is that we all got something in common. We all got the grill. We got the grill turned up. We got to put something in the grill. First and foremost, we got the Marlins representing the Marlins. Everybody representing the Marlins. The feeling's mutual. Everybody's amped up. I'm ready to go see Sandy. We're gonna see the Marlins take the field at the Big D Lone Depot Park. Woo! The Tampa Bay Rays ain't ready. Oye, Tampa Bay no está listo para lo que le viene. Vamos para arriba. Vamos Miami.
Absolutely, man.
Hey, Eli, man, I'm thinking the green screen. I'm thinking the live stream. I'm super happy that Fish Stripes is taking over the social media platform. We're doing a great job. We're competing with the Fish Valley Sports. Everybody, the whole Marlins community coming together, man. What a beautiful thing to witness, to watch. I remember when this thing was like only 16 Marlins Twitter fans, man. Look at us now. We're worldwide. We got people from Spain. I don't know where Nick's at right now, man. But
Isla man.
You're in where?
Isla Mirada in the Keys.
Yeah. Oh, look at him. So he's in the Keys. You know, tell him, bro. You live in the Keys. Who really dominates baseball in Florida? Go ahead and tell everybody.
Marlins, baby.
Yeah, that's my guy. I like this guy, Nick, already. Give him a follow, man. At Turd Ferguson 994, baby. Give him a follow.
Yeah, for people that don't know, watching this, Alex,
Thank you, man.
Almost when he's able to. I mean, he's got a crazy schedule with some of the filming that he's doing out of state for the next few weeks or maybe the next couple of months or two, that he puts up with a lot. And despite all that, the Marlins Barbecue Pod on our Fish Stripes feed, as much as possible. We put up an episode right before actually going on air here with Danny Martinez with The Godfather, previewing the season as well. So if people haven't listened to that already, it's a quick episode. We have about an hour till first pitch. You could listen to it about 3 times through it if you want. You can go once, twice, and 3 times and help our download numbers if you want to. But Marlins Barbecue, we started that, I guess, last season with him and Red Garcia, and that's been a big hit. So we're glad to keep that going over a full-length season when his schedule permits. Alex brings that extra energy, man, that I've loved having him around. I know you're missing being at the ballpark this year, though. I think you were 2 years in a row. You actually were credentialed on site for the opening day game, and Fish Stripes had that opportunity again this year, but out of town. So that doesn't have your spirits down at all, though. You still got that same appetite for the start of the new season.
That's right. I might not be there physically, but I'm there spiritually. You know what I'm saying? I'm sending out my good vibes out to Lone Depot Park out there in Little Havana, all my people, all Marlins Nations. Shout out to all the fans, everybody supporting Marlins Barbecue, Fish Stripes, all our podcasts, man, Big Fish, Little Pond, all that stuff, man. We killing it. We've had a lot of good guests in the past. You know, shout out to our latest guest, the Godfather, you know, Danny Martinez. We had Paul Severino. We had a lot of good people stop by, and if you get a chance, you're bored out. You know what I'm saying? Maybe on an off day you want to listen to some good content. Feel free to stop by, man, and enjoy the barbecue. You know what I'm saying?
What you grilling today, man?
What am I filming today? I'm filming a Christmas movie, right? The best time to film a Christmas movie is when it's not winter time, because everything you do, we put fake snow. You know what I'm saying? The weather's not so bad. I can actually rock out my Marlins jersey and not really have to worry about like wearing thermals and stuff. I gotta get ready for tonight. Tonight's gonna be like 35 degrees, but I got the thermals on. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not really worried about it because I'm just thinking about Sandy bringing the heat, and that keeps me hot. Woohoo!
Oh, but I guess what I meant was, what are you grilling today? Is what I meant. But thank you for telling us that too. Yeah.
We're grilling some Rays on the grill. But yeah, man. How you feel, Vicente? Talk to me about the Miami Marlins. Talk to me about Jazz. Did you see his hair? His hair looks great. He got the Miami blue hair. I can't wait till he goes on a hot streak. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Jazz is gonna have like a 10-game hit streak minimum, and then he's gonna die. Yeah.
Oh, I'm absolutely a fan of Jazz Chisholm. This is an amazing guy.
Oh man, I'm out here in the Goonies,
it's so fun to watch there in the pitch. Awesome. I really expect something great for him and for the Marlins, of course.
Yeah, that's going to be one of the biggest storylines of the whole year because they're so reliant on these relatively young players, and they've had so many disappointments among the hitters, honestly. I mean, starting with, the most obvious example has been Lewis Brinson, where he's now in year 4, and he's still on the team, but at this point, the ship has sailed on him as an everyday player just because of the struggles at the plate. And so many of the players that we saw last year, we were so excited about and have some very legitimate potential and had great minor league production too, to get you believing in them. They fell short a little bit as well. And ultimately, the one that Jazz has surpassed to get on the roster in the first place was Isan Diaz. Isan, who was the minor league player of the year in 2019 for the Marlins. The last full minor league season, he was performing as well as you could possibly hope at AAA, and yet it hasn't fully translated at all now that he's been facing these harder challenges, which you hope finally they've arrived at one of these players that can fulfill his potential at the plate. And I'm hopeful. I think a lot of people are very hopeful because they fall in love with his confidence and his swag. So I understand that. But even digging into the spring training stuff, it wasn't just that he was hitting home runs and that he was stealing bases. It's that he was hitting home runs unlike anybody else on the team. He had a couple balls that you look at the exit velocity that he was hitting it at, 112 miles per hour off the bat, 113. That's the kind of talent that you can't be taught. That is something that you really need to have innate in you. You need to really be lucky and hit the lottery to have that kind of baseball ability in you. And he has it, and you see it on defense as well, and you see it on base running as well, willing to go at any time and steal any base, that he has those special tools that really leap off the page. He's still young. He's still just 23 years old. He just turned this season. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that he puts it all together and that they're able to finally be that star that people want him to be. Because I've said this now, I think 3 times on the stream, that we can't crown him as one of the faces of the franchise until he performs a little bit in these regular season games. And this is the start of the journey. This is the first step where it's going to take a while. It's going to take a few months. There's going to be ups and downs, even if he does live up to his potential, that it will take a while for us to really understand the type of player he is and what he continues to still need to do to reach his prime. But this is the start of it. This is the start of it. I'm just glad to finally get started instead of obsessing over the exhibition games. It was great to be the best team in the Grapefruit League, but they've done that before. A lot of other teams have done that before and not translated. And hopefully this is something different.
and Brinson ourselves. Brinson is Mr. March, no? and then in the regular season don't show this potential. It's hard to see these situations that you tell.
Yeah, and this is such a wide window with him. Like if he hits it off, this is such a big key for the Marlins team. We talked about the extra money that they're bringing in and how you can hopefully acquire some more established players with that. But ultimately, to make this thing sustainable, to make the Marlins like the team of the decade, hopefully in baseball, you're going to have some of these young players that are affordable, some guys that are controllable through like these part of their careers, and you don't have to bid against anybody in free agency to get them. So with Jazz this year, and then if he stays up the whole year, it's still 5 more years all the way through like 2026 that the team could potentially have him locked in, that the team can, without having to sweat exactly a Francisco Lindor situation, right? We've seen Francisco Lindor, he gets $341 million from the Mets, and the Marlins are never going to be that team, even if Jazz ends up being that same type of player. But this is a nice window. This is a great window that they potentially have as long as he takes that first step, as long as he at least shows himself to be that everyday caliber player. Because before you start dreaming about being a star, he just needs to do what Brinson hasn't been able to do, and Isan and some of these other prospects, just solidify himself as an everyday player. And you kind of go from there.
Going back to Lindor.
Hey, I was looking.
Oh, go on. You could go ahead.
Go ahead. You want to talk about Lindor? Go ahead.
Yeah,
let's talk about Lindor.
Talk about Lindor. I wanted to change the subject.
Lindor's gonna be Bobby Bonilla 2.0. I'm calling it.
I believe not quite, in that I believe when his contract ends, the Bonilla payouts will still be going on. That Bonilla has a longer schedule than even Lindor has. It really is that we're already decades into the Bonilla thing, and it's not over yet. And Lindor gets this historic deal, and it doesn't even measure up. Not even in the same category. It's going to go on for a while, but not quite on the same level. That Bonilla thing is the gift that keeps on giving.
Hey, at least
what else is on your mind, Alex?
Ring, something the Mets don't know anything about. Hey, you know what? I was looking at a cool article on Fish Stripes, and it was talking about the Marlins opening day records, right? So the most RBIs the Marlins have had in one game on opening day belongs to Hanley Ramirez, 5 RBIs. And then the most home runs the Marlins has had on opening day is 2 home runs. That belongs to Jeff Conine. That being said, man, who is most likely to break that record in this opening day lineup today? Is it Marte going to hit 2 bombazos? Is it Cody Dickinson with a dick shot at the Big D? I can hear it now. Oppo with the Boppo across the pond. My bad, man. There's a lot going on. You know what I'm saying? Or who has the chance now to really go in and get some 5 RBIs, man? Maybe BA goes off. You imagine BA 3 home runs opening day? Why not, man? Why not? Let's go out here with the bag. Let's freaking punch the Rays in the face, and let's show them who runs Florida, baby. Let's go Marlins.
Absolutely, man.
Let's go Marlins.
Like Aguilar could do that.
Yeah.
Well, I love BA. Well, we've been talking for years about getting BA paid before he really breaks out. This matchup for him, I don't really love it against Tyler Glasnow. The one issue at times that has held BA back from being like that all-star player, especially last year, was hitting against breaking balls, hitting against like curveballs and sliders. And Glasnow, that's really what separates him. Like his curveball is nasty. And for the first time this year, that was his special project in spring training, to add a slider to that curveball. So now most of his pitches look like that, as we're getting, a guy Danilo is going to be joining us as well. But that's one thing that's his Achilles heel that's kind of stopping him from being a really great offensive player. He's good. He's a good offensive player. But the one matchup that hurts him is when he faces pitchers that have great breaking balls, and Glasnow's the one to do it. So my pick, to answer your question, I'm going with a Marte Parte, that he's going to be the one batting near the top of the order. He's going to get a lot of cracks at both Glass now, and then when the Rays go to their bullpen, we know the Rays like to go to their bullpen even when they shouldn't, that they can't wait to get into the bullpen and put in a different type of pitcher. So Marte will get a lot of cracks at that. He's going to have a great day. He continues to be one of the more underrated players on this team. He's been an all-star in his career. He was so clutch last year, and he's going to be a key for them again this year, starting from day one. Yeah.
And you're right. I think the Marlins should
Real
just
quick
have
before I
quality
gotta
at
get out of
bats
here,
against
I gotta
Glass
back on
now,
set. But
and just raise his pitch count up early as possible.
real quick. My bad. I hate to cut you off. I gotta get back to set. I gotta start rolling again. But I can see it now. I agree with what Eli says. I said opening day, Marte, Parte. 2-homer day for Sterling Marte. Marlins win. Woo! I'll see you guys later, man. Enjoy opening day. Blessings, man. Eli, keep doing your thing. Salud a la gente de España. Salud, my guy in Key West. Hey, I'm going to leave you guys with the big D of Fish Tribe. Danilo Del Santos. Yeah, baby. The guy that dropped the big bomb, all right, of the big D. All right, Lone Depot. Alex Contreras signing out. Blessings, everybody.
See you, Alex.
Yeah, I'm out of here too, guys. It's been a pleasure talking to all you guys. Eli, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
And it was a pleasure to meet you too, Vicente. Vicente or Vicente?
Vicente.
Okay. Un placer, Vicente.
Nice to meet you, Nick. It's a pleasure. Okay.
Bye, guys.
Adios. Go Fish.
Go Fish.
Go Fish. Yeah.
Hey, guys. What's up? I didn't want to interrupt as you guys were talking.
No, jump in every time. Everybody else has been interrupting. You should have seen it. we had Alex on here for only about 15 minutes, and he interrupted every one of us several times.
Oh, man. So I haven't been able to watch or listen because I've been working, but I'm so excited for this season. And I'm almost every single year, I'm a diehard Marlins optimist. This is the year. This is the year. Last year, once they announced the expanded playoffs, I definitely felt that the Marlins had a chance, and luckily they did. I'd love to see the team repeat. I think that a lot of things need to go right for them to repeat. The offense isn't much better than what it was last year. If Corey Dickerson is able to return to the Corey Dickerson of old when he was with the Phillies and the Pirates, I believe, and if Marte is able to hit like Sterling Marte as part of the Diamondbacks rather than part of the Marlins, I think things are definitely going to turn up. I'm so excited to see the production, or to see Sandy and Pablo's next level. I know that Sixto got pulled from the start yesterday, but if he's able to build on his performance last year, I think the Marlins have arguably the best starting rotation in the National League East.
Yeah, one guy you brought up that we haven't talked about much on the stream has been Dickerson, who was disappointing last year, any way you look at it, on both sides of the ball. Some of the mistakes he made defensively were very head-scratching, and the fact that he wasn't hitting for power, that was one expectation they had, that he was going to be able to hit home runs very consistently, at least against right-handed pitching. Very popular signing at the time. It looked like they had a good value for him, and he was someone that was still in this part of his career. He was 31 last year. He'll be turning 32 this year, where you would think he still has a lot left in the tank. And it didn't translate last season, but just for anybody that was unfamiliar with the background story of that he, on a personal level, just had a very difficult year personally, where he lost his grandfather and his father was diagnosed with cancer. And that stuff, it's hard to really contain that into your personal life. It bleeds over onto the field, especially when in a sport where you're playing every single day. During the middle of the season, he was able to get a couple of days off to grieve and be with his family. But aside from that, down the stretch, all those key games, he was playing with a heavy heart and with his focus off the field. So if nothing else, you hope that, personally, hope that there's no way that those same difficulties will be impacting him this year, that he's able to just get back to being a baseball player. And that's something where it's easier said than done to be able to separate that stuff. But as long as he's healthy, then it's a pretty safe bet that he will be somewhat better than he was last season, that he still has that ability. But a very interesting spring training for him, where he wasn't hitting for power even then, but he was working those very long at-bats. He was fouling off all those pitches and getting on base at a decent clip. So that's why, as we start off the season, he's batting in the leadoff spot. And you could kind of understand the thinking behind that, because he's someone that will ultimately get a pitch to hit if he's working really deep into his at-bats, and you want to give him as many opportunities as possible to tap in to that great ability that he has. So how confident are you, Vicent, that he'll be better than what we saw in 2020?
Oh, I hope so. Yes, because it's literally 10% what you say right now. It's disappointing. View so the Dickerson how drops this ball. You don't. It's incredible, and and have the opportunity to how you say ascend his mind, enjoy the baseball, and show us how his bats powerful is. And if they don't get more home runs, uh, he can make play his teammates and put the ball in play. And I think, and with Dickerson and Alfaro, there are a couple of guys that I think the whole community, the Marlins community, expect big step ahead.
Yeah, Alfaro belongs for some different reasons with Alfaro, where he was someone that believed to be the first player on the Marlins team last year that tested positive for COVID. And once he came back from that, he wasn't the same guy that we were hoping for. He wasn't producing at the same level in 2019 offensively at the plate. And then also they had enough concerns about him as a defensive catcher and working alongside with pitchers and making them feel comfortable calling a game behind there that they benched him for the playoffs, for the most important games involved in that. This offseason, he totally committed himself to trying to improve any way he can. He's from Colombia, and he didn't go home during the offseason. He stayed in Miami in order to work with their catching coach, Eddie Rodriguez. That's a guy I'll be interested to see the impact that Eddie has this year. He became their catching coach last year, but last year was obviously a very short year, not much to prove. And then this year, we'll see exactly what kind of impact that has, whether that translates to the real game. But more so than anybody on the whole team, I think Alfaro is in that make or break situation. There's so much pressure on him this year because he's at a stage of his career where he is getting closer and closer to free agency. He's earning more money, a couple $1 million this year, and he'll get raised for 2021. They raise as long as he stays healthy, and the team will have a difficult decision if he is not like an improved player from what we saw last year. That if he takes a big step forward, then they'll have to look at doing something completely different. They'll have to find somebody else either in free agency or trade, and that would ultimately be like the unsatisfying end to this chapter with the team. But on the other side, he's someone that hits for as much raw power as anybody. When he hits a home run, it's incredible to watch. And the athleticism he has as a catcher is so rare, too. It's exactly like he's real mutant. He's someone that can hustle down the first base line and beat out infield hits. He's someone that could steal bases occasionally as well, and you just don't see that from any other players at his position. So it's very tempting to want to believe in him. And it starts today. I mean, he does get the opening day start. He'll probably catch 2 of the 3 games in this series. He's clearly the number 1 catcher on the team ahead of Wallach. But that could change quickly if it's more the same problems as we saw last season.
Absolutely. I think he's one of Miami's most talented players. He clearly has some of the best tools on the team, but it's disheartening to see someone who's so good or can be so good and unfortunately was replaced by ultimately what is the backup catcher. And I think that in itself was just really telling about what the Marlins thought of Alfaro in the moment. And of all the offseason moves the Marlins were were rumored to be making, I think not acquiring a catcher perhaps was the one that they have dropped the ball on. I was one of the people that wanted Francisco Lindor to Miami. I think they have all the prospects, but after seeing yesterday's contract, that he's just not, in my opinion. I think he's a phenomenal shortstop. I just don't see the long-term value in signing someone for 10 years, $240 million. But I think the Marlins should have definitely upgraded at catcher. If you ever have to replace your starting catcher for the backup in the playoffs, which are the most important games you will play the entire year, that's a position that you should be looking to upgrade at any moment. I hope he can return to who he was his first year with the Marlins and that last year with the Phillies, which ultimately that's what attracted the team to him, because he is this almost JT-like player, as you mentioned, Eli, where he's really athletic. He's got great power. Defensively, he's not the best, but he's working at it. And I think he demonstrated that to the team that I'm going to stay here in Colombia and practice with the coach I'm going to stay here in Miami rather than go back to Colombia. Again, these are just, can the Marlins improve on their mistakes, or can the players who performed badly last year improve on that? And can the players who performed well last year improve on it and continue to build on it, where maybe the Marlins are continuing to surprise people? Because right now I think Vegas has the Marlins to still end up with a sub 500 record, somewhere around 70 wins. And I don't understand how a team who was in the playoffs suddenly goes to sub 500 because it's just a longer season. The Marlins are incredibly deep in every position except second base and shortstop. I would love to see what Jazz can do with a full year, cut down on the strikeouts. Is this it for Isan? Is he ever going to be hit major league pitching is the next big question that the team has to figure out.
Yeah, absolutely agreed on all those points. It's so many. One thing that I think should be mentioned is that, of course, you want the team to be successful this year. But if it looks like last year's season, it will be a little unsatisfying, because last year they were led by players like Jesus Aguilar, and they got a boost from Starling Marte down the stretch. Cooper as well. I mean, nothing against these guys, but they're all at this point now on the wrong side of 30, where they aren't part of the long-term core, where this season the results, they start to matter. That we're at a point in the rebuild now where year 4, the team's results are very important, that winning is a high priority. At the same time, if you want to feel confident about the direction of the team and what they potentially do in the next half decade, if they can really be a consistent World Series contender, the way you feel confident about that is if the young players step forward. If it's some of these pitchers like Pablo and Sandy, if Sixto hopefully gets healthy relatively soon and he delivers up to his ability, Trevor Rogers in that exact same category, these are the players that are under control already for another 4 or 5 years. And hopefully, I hope Kim Eng is listening. I know she's not, but if she's listening, it'd be great to consider extensions for some of these young players before they really put it all together, to make sure that they will be here even longer, where you can buy out some of their potential free agent years and make them stick around. I mean, on the pitching side, really, Sandy is the most obvious candidate for that, because aside from everything about his performance and the intangibles that he has, how the mound presence, how comfortable he is in big situations, and how he wants to take leadership of this team, he's also someone that has just been so durable so far. He's had, knock on wood, he's had no arm injuries since he's been in the organization. He had one fluky situation in 2018, but his durability is something that you can feel very confident in, and that's so rare in a pitcher. It's very hard to find pitchers like this. There's a lot of luck involved, and they got lucky. He's been a very worthy piece from that trading away Marcelo Ozuna, and they should make the most of it. They should make sure that he's here for as long as possible without really overextending, without really putting yourself in a situation where it's a regrettable contract. But their long-term payroll situation is just, it's so lovely. It could not be any better in terms of all the options they have to build this team moving forward. With the
let's just hope they use the money.
Yeah, that's the big question, is how much of the money they're going to use, because that of course came up earlier in the stream about how they're making a lot more than they used to, where the TV deal it's with the same network as always, now rebranded as Bally Sports Florida, but along with that new deal, it's an extra $25-30 million every year. That's an extra money that they didn't have before that they now have, and they should do something with it. And of course, the naming rights is another drop in that bucket that it continues to push them up to a more competitive level with other teams. And so they have so many options to consider. And as I think everybody here on the stream has said, that a contract like Francisco Lindor, that's not in the cards, and you can understand wanting to avoid that type of risk. But there is a middle ground. You don't have to rely entirely on your young players and the next wave of prospects. You don't have to keep betting on these players that don't have any experience. You have some that are in this sweet spot where they do have some experience, where they've proven themselves, where they've shown these innate abilities to continue improving, that they're very competitive and want to keep improving. And once you identify these players, then maybe they're the ones that deserve these contracts. They're the ones that you want to keep around, and that you can trust to age well. And just another thing that we don't talk about enough with this team is give the fan base a sense of continuity, give them familiar faces. That this is what makes a lot of fans fall in love with the team, is when they see somebody have success year after year, when they recognizable face and someone that has their own nickname with the team, somebody that they get to know really well just because they've been in the same place for a long time. We just had Fish Stripes, I guess, last week, and coming up this weekend, we're announcing the results of our Fish Stripes Marlins Hall of Fame ballot. Since you probably remember that from last year, the first year that we did the Hall of Fame, and now this is year 2 where we have a couple other players selected. And for the most part, those are players that had a long time with the Marlins team. They're ones that spent several years, not just one, not just two, ones that maybe at the end of their tenure, they were traded away or they left in free agency. But the team should make an effort once they see these players perform well to keep them around. I mean, that's something that is going to help the fan base be loyal to the team. It's a two-way street, loyalty. Be loyal to the fans and treat them well, and the fans will be supportive of you if you build the team the right way, and if you treat the players the right way. That
Absolutely.
all these guys are together. It's a big partnership, really. It's a
Absolutely,
three-way
absolutely.
street. Yeah.
And Derek Jeter, I think, would know better than that. Would know more about that than anyone else. How long did the Yankees keep the Pettit, the Rivera, the Jeter, the Giambi, the Bernie Williams together for years? Giambi came later, but they had Bernie, they had Jeter, they had Pettit, they had Posada. They kept the 4 of them together for as long as they possibly could. Obviously, this is a different team with a lot more money, but the Marlins need to be able to find, as you said, those 2-3 players that we can extend maybe 5-6 years, something along the contracts of what Christian Yelich originally signed with the Marlins, which was a steal. Jesus. But it to be able to keep the players long-term and flip the prospects into an already established major leaguer. The Marlins are never going to be this top 5 payroll, and I'm pretty sure that might have been mentioned 1,000 times. I love Derek Jeter's super non-committal Derek Jeter type answer during the press conference yesterday. We're going to just let our guys play. And, you let your prospects play, but at the same time, there are better players out there than whatever prospect you got in the minors. Trade this guy, flip him for flip him for a Wilson Contreras to improve at catcher. Don't be afraid of using your top 5 farm system to replenish your major league system, because ultimately one of them is what's really going to make you the money. And although everyone does love long-term success, like the Cardinals, like the Spurs, to bring in a basketball team, but man, I would just love to see the Marlins win it one time for the first time in 14, 15 years. Albeit throw everything out the window, start it, build it up, because I think the fans deserve it. Yeah, we get the joke. There's 4,000 fans or whatever, but man, 4,000 fans have been through a lot.
Yeah, completely agree. I don't have no more to say, but it's 10% this, and just now it's the first day in the field, opening day roster, but no need these spots that are Jazz or JJ Blade. We need these spots will be Brian Anderson and some guys like that, no, because they come up with for the minor leagues like a fish, and all we want to watch Brian Anderson grow up and be a top 10 elite serious baseman in the league. We'll see. This next year will be important because we know that they have money now.
Yeah, it's not an excuse anymore. There are certain decisions that you won't make. We keep going back to like a Lindor extension. There's a line you won't cross, but there's so much in the middle that you could continue to do to make the team better. As of this moment, the projected payroll for the team is right around $60 million, and that's not going to be acceptable moving forward. That's not going to be enough to keep pace in this division, especially this division where you're playing almost half-year games against the NL East, and it's not just the Mets, it's really every team in that division, from the Braves to the Phillies to the Nationals, that they have that advantage, and you don't need to spend at the same level they do, but you need to close the gap, because that's how you make that difference. That's how you really sustain success, is when you lock up the players, just a small number of players that you really trust, and that every year you look for certain key free agent or trade targets that make sense. And last year was Starling Marte. That's something you really should be looking to do every year. When you have, just to throw out a scenario, if Jorge Alfaro struggles again and you really have to start over at catcher, then that's a position where you see with Real Muto, he just set a new record for the average annual value on his contract for a catcher. And that's also another extension for Salvador Perez in Kansas City, that he earned more than $20 million a year, that it costs a lot to get established players that make your team better. And so this organization will have to pick and choose where to do that. And
absolutely, yeah. Well, the chief in the community in Spain say, if you want to win World Series, you have to pay the players to put in the field 280 in the average. You don't want a World Series with players who don't pass the 250, and you have to pay to win. It's something exceptional that some way in the story one type of team win the championship. But the if you want to win, you have to pay best players.
The team that Marlins will point to, they'll say, maybe we don't. They point to the Rays, and they say that the Rays just made the World Series, and they spend as little much money as we do. And they've now made 2 World Series actually in recent years, and they're in the playoffs almost half the time. But I agree. That's not something that's not easy to copy. That's not something where it works for other teams. That's a rare exception.
Exceptional, yeah.
The Rays are an enigma, and I don't know how they do it every single year, but somehow that team, past 2007, after they acquired Evan Longoria and that whole rebrand, they've been a phenomenal team to watch. I don't know what it is that the scouting department does or the development department, but the Rays are a good team. They're always, and I mean, it sucks for the fans there because they never really get to see their players there long term, but also a little bit on the fans. I'll see Rays games on TV and they're not full, and your team's winning games. Outside of last year, because no one could go to the games, but 2019, Tampa fans don't go to Tampa Bay games, but they put a constant product, a very good product. Blake Snell, if Wander Franco comes up, then that's a really talented, exciting player to watch. Maybe a little bit like Fernando Tatis, in that same, I'm young, I'm here to show my personality, and I can hit the hell out of the ball. You'd love to see fans show up for that, and hopefully Miami fans start to notice that a Jazz Chisholm is a young, excitable guy to watch. If Monte Harrison learns how to hit major league pitching, that's an exciting guy to watch. But these Marlins guys, they have personality. Sixto with his Bobo comment every single start. Sandy is personable. These guys are exciting. Now it's time for us to show our support.
We're going to finish up this stream right about now. But Danilo, I need you to help me with that the English-speaking people, we don't understand what the Bobo is a reference to. Do you understand what that is? Because that's just been a big mystery, and we want to get on the same page.
Yeah, so I don't know why he says it, but a Bobo means just like I don't want to say loser or lame, but it's like
it's
not,
something like that. Yeah.
I mean, that's what it's translated as, but he doesn't mean it as that. He means it completely, like, somewhat different. I don't know why he says it, but it's interesting because it gives him this personality. Like, oh, he's talking to us in Spanish. He's giving us some of that flavor. And being Dominican, watching Dominican players, I mean, we might as well call these guys the Dominican Marlins because they got a ton of them down there in the system, and they're exciting. I think fans need to come out, show their support. Let's get rid of this 4,000 fan joke. But also, as you were saying, and as has been said, the organization has to show up for the fans. These are our players. Let's extend them. Let's sign them long term. And let's prove to the world that the Marlins are here to play. I'm tired of the Marlins stigma that every time our players aren't ranked in the top 100 or in the top 10 of their positions, they aren't picked to win awards. Hey, we're here to play. We made the postseason. We beat the Cubs, who I think were favored to beat us. And honestly, if the Marlins had a healthy Marte, that Braves series goes a lot longer.
Exactly. They weren't quite as far away as it might seem. And the upside this year is really exciting. But we've been on air now, an hour and 45. This has gone even better than I'd planned. So we appreciate everybody that was watching. We appreciate Vicente and Danilo calling in the second half of the show. Early on, we had Alex Carver. We had Epic Fish Fan. We had Nick. We had Alex Contreras. And Sean as well. And we're going to be doing a lot of streaming this year. Every stream from now on will be better than this one. This is the first one, so working out all the kinks in it to try to figure out what to do. But whether it's pregame, postgame, I know Ethan Badowski will be heavily involved in that. This plan is still kind of fluid. We're still trying to figure out the best format to do this in. But you already know us on Fish Stripes from what we do on Twitter and on Instagram on fishstripes.com, the Fish Stripes podcast. So continue supporting us over there. Enjoy the game that's about to get started, and we'll be with you, of course, throughout the game and afterwards and for the whole 2021 season. Thank you, guys, and go Fish.
Go Fish.
Go Fish.